What's up guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you're doing good. Today we have some massive Valheim news. There's a new update called Cold Worms filled with lots of awesome stuff, and it's available right now on the public test branch. And in today's video, we're going to go through showing you all of the new stuff and explaining why this update is a massive deal and way more than just bears. Let's jump into it. So first and foremost, we have some new mechanics that have been added to the game. There's a new type of equipable item called Trinkets, and these items cause your character to gain adrenaline during combat. The way you gain adrenaline is by successfully hitting enemies, triggering a Forsaken power, using certain magic attacks, as well as performing perfect blocks and perfect dodge rolls. When the bar is full, you get an adrenaline surge, which resets your adrenaline bar back to 0, but it will trigger one of the temporary buffs caused by the specific trinket you have equipped. So there's a bunch of trinkets and they all provide different buffs, and we're going to be diving into that a little later on. When you're not in combat, adrenaline will fade and you'll only gain adrenaline as long as you have a trinket equipped. This is massive and it's going to be a huge game changer for combat in Valheim, especially combined with some of the other updates to combat. So let's jump into these trinkets and go through the buffs each of them provide. First up, we've got the Heart of the Forest. This trinket gives you a plus 25% to health regen, and the effect lasts for 60 seconds. To craft Heart of the Forest, you'll need 5 bronze, 5 ancient seeds, and 1 Grey Dwarf Shaman trophy. Next up is the Bronze Pendant, and this trinket gives you a plus 25 to stamina regen, and this effect duration is also 60 seconds. To craft the Bronze Pendant, you'll need 5 bronze, 1 bear trophy, which we'll talk about a little later on, and 3 rubies. Then we've got the Iron Brooch. The Iron Brooch will give you 50 health gain, 20 armor, and lasts for 30 seconds. To craft the Iron Brooch, you'll need 5 iron, 5 ancient bark, and 1 leech trophy. Next, we've got the Nimble Anklet. This trinket gives you 50 stamina, will increase your movement speed by 15%, and lasts for 30 seconds. Then we've got the Crystal Heart. This one makes you slightly resistant to blunt, slash, and pierce, and lasts for 50 seconds. To make the Crystal Heart, you'll need 5 silver, 5 crystal, and 1 stone golem trophy. There's the Wolf Sight that gives you plus 20 to bows, plus 20 to spears, plus 10% pierce, and lasts for 30 seconds. And to craft the Wolf Sight, you'll need 5 silver, 5 wolf fang, and 1 Fenring trophy. Next, we've got the Fins of Destiny. This trinket will give you plus 50% to swim speed, minus 80% to swim stamina usage, and will last for 120 seconds. To craft the Fins of Destiny, you'll need 5 chitin, 5 serpent scales, and 1 serpent trophy. Next up, we've got the Evasion Mantle. The Evasion Mantle will give you minus 50% to block stamina usage, plus 50% to parry bonus, plus 20 to dodge, and the effect duration is 120 seconds. To make the Evasion Mantle, you'll need 5 black metal, 1 Fueling Berserker trophy, and 10 linen thread. Next up, we've got the Bracelets of the Brave. Bracelets of the Brave gives you 100 health gain, plus 20 to clubs, plus 10% to blunt, and it has a 60-second effect duration. To craft these, you'll need 5 black metal, 5 Lux Pelt, and 1 Lux trophy. Then we've got the Pulsating Earrings. These give you plus 25% Ether regen and have a 60-second duration. To make these, you'll need 5 Carapace, 5 Refined Ether, and 1 Jarl trophy. Then we've got the Resounding Shackle, and this will give you 100 stamina gain, plus 10% to slash, and the buff will last for 60 seconds. To craft the Resounding Shackle, you'll need 5 Ether, 5 Scale Hide, 1 Mandible, and 1 Seeker trophy. Next, we've got your Mundling. This trinket will give you 100 Ether gain, plus 20 to Elemental Magic, plus 20 to Blood Magic, and the effect duration is 60 seconds. To craft this one, you need 5 Flame Metal, 5 Refined Ether, 1 Bloodstone, and 1 Fallen Valkyrie trophy. And lastly, we've got Brimstone. Brimstone gives you 100 stamina gain and 100 health gain, and because this is just a single use as opposed to a passive buff, it has no effect duration. You just get the health and stamina right away. And to craft this one, you'll need 5 flame metal, 5 sulfur, 1 molten core, and 1 Morgan trophy. So those are all the trinkets. Let me know below if you want to see a video about this. I think these are an amazing addition to the game. There's 13 new craftable items, each with their own unique mechanics, and that is absolutely awesome. You probably noticed that some of the trinket buffs have durations. So just to reiterate, in case it's not clear, once you've filled up the adrenaline meter by being in combat, when it hits the end of the bar, it triggers a single use. Any of the instant effects of the trinkets get activated there and then, and the passive buffs last for whatever the effect duration is of that trinket, and your adrenaline bar goes back to 0, but the next time you fill it up again, which could just be moments later, triggers the buff again. So this really does add a whole new dynamic to combat in Valheim. So moving on, believe it or not, we've got a lot more than just this in the update. There's a ton of stuff in Call to Arms. We've also got a bunch of new wooden weapons. These are basically special training weapons that you can actually use to practice combat against your friends without actually hurting each other. And considering this is most likely going to be a bit of a meme, there's actually quite a few new wooden weapons. There's also a new skill called the perfect dodge roll. So now when you dodge an attack that would have previously caused you damage, you get a percentage of stamina back, so that now a perfect dodge roll won't just be a pure stamina loss. Especially considering that now also in this update, when you execute a perfect block, it'll no longer cost any stamina. So all of the new stuff in this update is really just going to make combat a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting. Speaking of combat, there's a couple of other new things. They've reduced the movement penalty of battle axes, sledgehammers, and tower shields, so you're able to be a little faster with that gear now. And also, vertical fighting has been improved, making it easier to hit enemies on slopes, which has been an issue that has plagued players of Valheim since day one. We'll have to see how this shakes out, but this is going to make a lot of people happy. Next up, we've got 2 new creatures. It really says a lot about this update that it's taken this long for us to get to the main poster child of the update, the bear. So yes, there's now a bear that can spawn in the Black Forest, and there's also the bear's undead equivalent called the Vial that spawns in the plains. Obviously, the Vial is much more difficult. The bear is definitely going to be more of a challenge than the average Grey Dwarf, but still, you should be completely fine, even with Black Forest gear. I think this is actually a really interesting addition because personally, the Black Forest feels like one of the most fleshed out areas in the game. The plains, on the other hand, has been in desperate need of new additions for a long time, so the Vial is an extremely welcome addition there, and combined with the sealed towers that we now have, that biome is finally starting to feel finished. Along with the new creatures, there's also a bunch of new crafting materials, some of which are from the new mobs, but there is some other stuff as well. For example, there is now a blob vial that's purchasable from the witch, which is an absolutely awesome addition because with this blob vial, you're actually able to craft special blob bombs that when you throw them, explode and release a blob of your choice. There's a tar blob bomb, and to make that you'll need a corked vial that you buy from the witch with a growth trophy and 3 tar. To make the elite poison blob bomb, you'll need a vial, 3 blob trophies, and 3 resin. For a regular poison bomb, you'll need a vial, 1 blob trophy, and 3 resin. For a lava one, it's 1 vial, 10 sulfur, and 10 prostite powder. And this next one has caused a lot of confusion, but I think I've worked it out. Let me know in the comments what you think. But the final type of blob bomb is a frost blob bomb. Now, here's why this has caused some confusion on the internet. In the patch notes, it states that there's only been 2 new creatures added to the game, the bear and the vial, but people also noticed that you can spawn in a new type of blob, the frost blob. This seems to have been causing all different types of confusion because people think that this blob is now going to be in the mountain. It's spawnable in via commands. But it seems to me, after experimenting with the Blob Bombs and stuff, pretty obvious what's going on. Again, I may be wrong, let me know in the comments, but the way you craft a Frost Blob Bomb is with 1 corked vial and 1 stone golem trophy and 3 resin. When you throw it, it spawns in a Frost Blob. So I don't think they're adding this mob to the mountains, but you get to spawn one in yourself and use it as a weapon in combat with the new Blob Bombs and the help of a stone golem trophy. My guess here is that they wanted another elemental blob bomb. It makes complete sense, since basically there's one for every biome from the swamp onwards, which is where you find the witch. It would obviously have been completely insane to bottle up a stone golem and have that be throwable, because it would be completely OP. So they clearly just made it a frost blob, which I think is a great call. And again, I could be wrong, but I would assume they're not adding this mob to the mountain biome. Otherwise, it would have been in the patch notes. And I think they're making that call because, frankly, it looks a little silly and out of place and not really at all fitting with the vibe of the mountain. But with this item, it's a fun new little combat experience you can get with some of the new features. All right, moving on, let's continue down the list of new crafting materials. There's also ectoplasm. This brings us on to a whole other tangent of how awesome the new overhauled Ghost is. I've always been a big fan of Ghost in Valheim, but in this update, they've revamped it, made it look extra creepy, and it now drops ectoplasm. There's also a new Ghost trophy to match that's equally as awesome. Carrying on with the new materials, there's obviously bear hide, a bear trophy, bear paw, a vial trophy, and a vial rib cage. The vial on the bear also drop a new food item, bear meat, that can be cooked. That is a pretty decent early game meal. And there is a bunch of new clothing and armor thanks to some of these new maps. So we've got some new chest armor, patterns of the bear, got some leg armor, there's the loincloth of the bear and the bear headrest, the headrest of the bear, and then we've got basically the same for the vial. We've got the Valbone cage, the Valbone drapes, and the Valbone visage. So 2 new complete armor sets. Both of these are particularly interesting actually, because considering how they're craftable pretty early, they do actually add some awesome buffs, because they have plus 30% health regen and plus 15% stamina regen in the case of the bear set, and that's per piece. There's even a set effect for that armor set that increases the damage and regeneration, but weakens it against physical attacks. Nonetheless, this makes it a crazy armor set for early game. The vial set is equally as interesting, with a pretty big improvement on how much stamina regen it provides you with, but obviously that's craftable later in the game. When it comes to new weapons, we of course have all of the bold blobs that we talked about before and a bunch of wooden weapon variants. But there's also Paws of the Bear and Valbone Maulclaws, which are basically new Flesh Ripper variants, which is one of the fan favorites from the ice caves in the mountains. So people that love using fist weapon skills will be super excited about that. And we've also got 2 new battle axes. We've got a black metal battle axe and a skull splitter battle axe. So these 4 weapons basically just fill in the gaps of these weapon variants for 2 different weapon types that already existed, but were mysteriously missing from other parts of the game. There's also technically a couple of new build pieces. You've got the archery target to allow you to practice archery, a new bearskin rug, and the Battle Brother. The Battle Brother is particularly interesting because this is a robotic combat mannequin that actually fights back, and it only does a tiny bit of damage, but it gives players a chance to practice parrying, which is an excellent choice for any players that will play in this single player and are struggling with the parry mechanic. There's a new location which sounds more exciting than it is. It's just a little combat ruin, 3 new hairstyles, 5 new beard styles, and a bunch of fixes improvements, most of which we've already covered when it comes to combat. But we are still not done. One of the other big things in this update is the rebalanced Forsaken powers. So the Eikthyr Forsaken ability has not been nerfed, so it's remaining super powerful. But instead of just reducing stamina usage for running and jumping, it also reduces stamina usage for swimming now as well, making it an even better choice. The Elder still helps you with chopping down trees, but it also increases your mining damage and gives you 30% health regeneration now. This is a much needed buff to the Elder ability because almost nobody used it before because it was only for cutting down trees. Bone mass still gives you damage resistance, but it also gives 100% reduced block stamina usage. So you'll use less stamina when you're blocking, or rather you'll use no stamina when you're blocking. And it gives you 5 stamina per block, making this an even better choice for combat than it was before. For modder, you still get the Tailwind ability, but it also will give you 300 increased carry weight, 10% increased movement speed, making this a massive buff to this ability. Again, much needed. That is awesome. Your Gluth still gives the lightning resistance, but it also gives you a plus 25 farm skill and 10% increased damage. So Valheim farmers will be happy about that. The Queen still does the increased eater regeneration, but it also gives you 100% reduced sneak cost. So you can basically sneak for free. And Farder actually ties in to the new adrenaline mechanics because it gives you 100% adrenaline increase, 50% reduced stagger, and fire resistance. There's a bunch of new tweaks to item stands, which I'm not going to talk about in this video because it's pretty insignificant considering how big this update is. But basically, a bunch of new stuff is now mountable on item stands that wasn't before, and some stuff has some different angles and orientations that they can be placed in. There's been some updates to some hairstyle names, to localization, the Unity engine has been upgraded, and there's been a bunch of bug fixes. So that is it. That is everything. Like I said, a lot more than just bears. This update is a game changer. Iron Gate are really shaking up the combat in this, which makes me very excited to jump in and do another playthrough. Let me know in the comments what you think of this too. Are you excited about it? And yeah, lots of nice little details and gaps being filled in with new items and mobs and stuff. All right, guys, that's just about going to do it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and a nice positive comment for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for future content. You can support my content on Patreon at patreon.com/nickrawcliffe. So leave a link in the description if you're interested in that. You can catch my live streams on this YouTube channel and also live on Twitch at twitch.tv/nickrawcliffe. And you can follow me on social media at the links below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, have a good one.